Hello, this is Kevin Jones, back with Constructed Accumulated Knowledge. In part 2 of Constructed Accumulated Knowledge, we'll be building on what we learned in the first episode, and we'll be incorporating Fatal Push and Aether Revolt into the modern metagame. We're going to look at how this changes my modern Grixis Delver deck, and we'll also be taking a look at the results of the recent SCG regionals and how we can build on what we learned there. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome back to Constructed Accumulated Knowledge. Now we've finally got our deck list up. We've got Fatal Push here in modern Grixis Delver, and it's been a long time coming. Since the card was spoiled, its implications in black decks and Eternal formats had been well lauded, and it's finally time to see if the card is worth its weight. And the first weekend, SCG Columbus saw their modern classic had a Grixis Delver deck with 4 Fatal Push make the top 8. And that deck unfortunately fell to Grizzlebrand Shoal deck, which makes sense when you have another 4 dead cards. But anyway, I think that Fatal Push is very important for black decks in Modern. I think it's less important for Grixis Delver than it is for other decks like Grixis Control or Esper Control that Fatal Push has basically pushed from the brink of validity to reasonable archetypes to choose to play. Now, the reason why I think Fatal Push is less important in Delver than others is because you have less room for removal spells overall. And you need to make sure that you can deal with a wide range of things thrown at you. And as a result of that, I really like only playing about 2 pushes. So, if you remember in part 1, we had 2 Terminates and 20 lands and 1 sleight of hand. And now we have a 3rd Mana Leak, 2 Fatal Pushes, no sleight of hand, and back down to 19 lands, eschewing the 2nd Watery Grave once again. So basically what happened here is we needed to make some room for Fatal Push, and we did at the cost of the 2nd Terminate and the 1 flex slot left open by Gitaxian Probe. The other flex slot became the 3rd Mana Leak to combat the rise in big mana decks that the opening left by the powerful Infect deck has left. So, because Infect got worse, some of its worst matchups, meaning Tron, Through the Breach, Red-Green Breach, Red-Green Valakut, whatever you want to call it, those decks got better in the metagame because their worst matchup is obviously less represented. And as a consequence of that, I think the reactivity of Grixis Delver needs to shift slightly as well, and that's why we're seeing a 3rd Mana Leak. And also, because the 2 Fatal Pushes, one of them is taking the place of a Terminate, I like having the 3rd Mana Leak because the number of answers you have to something like Primeval Titan or even Wormcoil Engine in a pinch are less in number there as well. So I like this change, and I think it reflects the shifts in the metagame in the wake of the bannings and the incorporation of Aether Revolt. So that's the thing about a card like Fatal Push, right? It's that you're going to say, though, it's so good for these Grixis decks, it's so good for Abzan, so good for Jund. But what actually happens is that the Fatal Push decks all start to cannibalize each other in a way and attack each other, and the number of Fatal Pushes that they're playing is just becoming very, very good against all the other decks that are playing it and are trying to attack on a fair axis. But then your Fatal Pushes become a liability against all the big meta decks, and you're seeing hands full of Fatal Push dying to something like Ad Nauseam, dying to something like Red-Green Valakut or Tron, or even Burn to an extent, as every removal spell you draw has a pretty small window of relevance against a deck like Burn, which Burn happened to take down the recent SCG regionals that we hosted this weekend at Kerwin's Game Store, and I think that anytime Burn does well, those people who were, Burn doubters, or so to speak, kind of fall off a little bit, and the Burn truthers, they climb back up and they say, Burn's here, Burn's back, and they dust off their Eidolons again. But regardless, another thing I wanted to draw attention to, aside from the Fatal Pushes, is that I've gone back down from 20 to 19 lands. And I'm slightly skeptical of my own decision on this part, but in testing, almost not every single game, but a vast majority of the games I played, the games that went long, I was flooding a lot more than I would have anticipated flooding. and I was having a lot of Serum Visions where I drew a land, bottom 2 lands, and then still drew a land. And it's possible I could have been slightly results-oriented in this regard, but I really felt like 20 lands might have been too many. It's kind of a tough consequence of losing Gitaxian Probe as well. Like, we're seeing that we want 19 lands with 2 additional cantrips, but then when you lose 2 cantrips, you want to play a 20th land. But then the thing about a cantrip is sometimes it's a land and sometimes it isn't, so we're seeing spots where I have the land when I don't want it, and then I still, with 19 lands, don't have the land when I need it. So it's kind of tough, and it's possible that there should be either a 20th land or maybe bring back another cantrip. I'm not 100% sure yet, and the matches that we play as the series pans out will teach us something, and we're going to build on that, because I'm going to learn from this series as much as you guys are, and that's kind of the point of accumulating knowledge, if you will. So, moving on a little bit, I think that the changes in the deck reflect the shifts in the metagame, and also the changes in my sideboard reflect some of the shifts in the metagame. And moving from the main deck over to the sideboard, we're going to slide this over a little bit so everyone can see it here. We can see that we've kept many of the cards intact. We've kept the Desolate Lighthouse, the Engineered Explosives, 2 copies of Dispel, a Magma Spray, Counter Squall, Collective Brutality, Painful Truths, Is It Sadcaster, and Pia and Kiran Nalar. Now, the new changes are, we went from what was once 4 Surgical Extractions all the way down to 2, because I feel like there's been a drop-off in Dredge, and at the 9-round SCG Regional, I only saw 1 Dredge deck there, and I played against it 0 times. I sat next to it once, played against it 0 times, so I think there's much less Dredge, but there was a marked increase of something like Goryo's Vengeance or Abzan Company, as Renegade Rallier has given that deck a real shot in the arm, and I think that both of these decks are attempting to prey on the lack of splash damage from Dredge, and they think that there'll be a minimizing of graveyard hate in the wake of the Grave Troll banning, and they'll look to capitalize on that because they'll think people will be trimming. So, and it's kind of funny because we are trimming and generally making ourselves weaker to Dredge. But I think that is an opportunity cost that I'm willing to pay, because we are incorporating some dedicated hate to matchups that are also bad and are much more represented in the big mana decks, being Red-Green Valakut and various Urzatron strategies. Also, like Scapeshift, be it Red-Green or Blue Scapeshift, are decks that are played in the new metagame and have gained a little bit of value by the bannings, as Blue Scapeshift was terrible against Infect, and so were Tron and Red-Green. So all those changes have led me to try out 2 copies of Crumble to Dust. I played Molten Rain in this slot at SCG Regionals, and I rather liked it in the matchups that I brought it in. Now, Crumble to Dust, I think the 3rd Mana Leak being in the main deck allows us to play Crumble to Dust, which I believe is a little too slow out of the average Grixis deck. I really like Crumble to Dust in decks like a Kiki Core deck, I guess would be the best way to describe it. Like a Naya deck playing something like Wall of Roots or some other acceleration. I like Crumble to Dust in the Valakut Mirror, when you can Farseek or Search for Tomorrow to play it a turn earlier. But I generally haven't liked the card in Grixis, and I do think it's one of the absolute hate cards, and as a result of it being one of the absolute hate cards, I'm going to give it a shot, because it really cripples Tron, and also, like, having Crumble to Dust means you don't really have to bring in the Surgical Extractions that I was previously. I was Molten Raining and then Surgicaling my Tron opponents, but I think you can Mana Leak the first expensive threat, and then Crumble to Dust before they can play a second expensive threat, even if they have the third turn Tron on the play. When they're on the play, you're going to have some trouble here, but you got to try to beat as much things as you can and keep you wide, because I think Crumble is much better against the Valakut decks than Molten Rain. And again, I don't generally want to bring in Surgical there, as I'll want to keep in a couple removal spells for something like Primeval Titan or Vendilion Click or Pia, whatever random silver bullets they have at the board. I like having answers to that. And the other card that we changed in the sideboard is this one of Thoughtseize. And I had been playing 2, but there was no room ultimately, and I decided to play just 1 Thoughtseize. But the Thoughtseize has been great, as I've been boarding in against various control decks, and I've been boarding in against Tron, and any combo decks I might face. It's also probably fine against company/core decks, as they put a lot of pressure on your removal and your counterspells, and something like Elves, where the disparity between their good cards and their bad cards against you is really high. So I really like playing something like Thoughtseize there to nab their chords, their companies, the occasional Archdruid, and let your removal spells clean up the rest of that. So I like Thoughtseize there. I think it's important to mention as well, though, that I don't like bringing Thoughtseize in against mid-range decks, namely the black-green decks. I really don't like trying to Thoughtseize Jund. I don't like trying to Thoughtseize Abzan, as they have cards that already punish your 2-for-1 strategies. Cards like Liliana the Veil, cards like Lingering Souls, make the 1-for-1ing game that you're trying to play up until the mid to late game. It makes that strategy bad, and I think that having more bad top decks in games that do often go quite long is a pretty critical error. So I really don't like Thoughtseize there. Though I do like it against other Snapcaster decks, Jeskai, Grixis, even like Blue-White or Esper. I think it's very good there. I think the fact that counterspells are pretty important in those matchups, as well as Snapcaster Mage being very important in those matchups, and Thoughtseize being a great answer to both counterspells and Snapcaster Mage, makes it a solid inclusion there. So that's basically the once-over of our new build, and, you know, again, I said I'm not totally sure that we're optimized, but the best way to do this with Modern, you know, an Eternal format like Modern, is to just play some games and tweak here and there, because we're not going to change the entire deck. You know, we're not going to cut, add 2 or 3 lands, cut the Delvers, and just jam a bunch of Cryptic Commands in there. I mean, somebody could do that, and Corey Burkhart does do that and does quite well with it. But I want to stay with Grixis Delver, and I want to explore basically all the ranges that there are to explore within the archetype of Grixis Delver. And I think the best way to do that is to tweak a couple numbers here and there, change, you know, 3 to 5 cards maybe, if that many, week to week, and figure out, you know, what the weakest links are, figure out what the biggest strengths are, and they ebb and flow with the context of the format. And I think that while you may see me playing 3 Mana Leaks right now, it could be, you know, as soon as a week or even 2 weeks later, where I'm back down to 2, and that doesn't necessarily mean that Mana Leak is bad. It just means that the format is in a cyclical phase, and, you know, we're going through some of the strong shots for a certain card or some of the weak points for a certain card. And so it's important to remember that in a non-rotating format. But we're gonna get to a match now, and, well, that's it. Let's get into it. Thank you guys for watching. All right, so welcome back to Constructed Accumulated Knowledge, and here we are playing a league match with Modern Grixis Delver. We have Fatal Push in our deck now. Aether Revolt is out, so we'll be able to see truly how the deck works with those updates and how the Modern metagame has changed. We're going to keep, and I'm taking a long time to do this just to make sure everybody knows what's going on, but yeah, we're going to keep this hand. This hand's great. Our opponent is keeping. All right. I stopped on my upkeep because of Delver. Play Spire Bluff, and I'm going to play Delver. Pretty simple start. Got a Bolt and a Visions. Depending on what they're playing, we'll leave up Leak or maybe Cantrip, so we can Pyromancer plus Bolt the next turn. This is a good spot to be, though. Anytime you're on the play and get to play turn 1 Delver, generally good. That's a Foil Polluted Delta. All right. I will not like to reveal Scalding Tarn. Delver didn't flip, so that's okay. Still on the upkeep. I like playing Scalding Tarn and attacking with Delver and doing nothing else. Just to keep up Mana Leak and not walk into Spell Snare. We'll get a Watery Grave end of turn, and then we can play Serum Visions next turn. Or if they tap out, Serum Visions and Young Pyromancer. A lot of information from finding out what this Polluted Delta goes and gets. It's events tapped. Alright, so maybe we have the Mirror. That's cool. Not walking into Spell Snare is important, so I kind of like how we play this if we play in the Mirror. Alright, Mirror looks like it, or another Grixis deck with much better land base, evidently. Gonna crack this. Hopefully not get Shadow of Doubted. That would be terribly frustrating. Would not like to pay 2 life. And end step. We could have kept our fetch land in play to get another opt with our Delver trigger, but I elected to just get the tap land and keep our life total high. So let's attack with this Delver and see if anything happens. Then maybe if they kill our Delver, we can sneak a Pyromancer in there underneath the removal spell. They didn't take it. All right, let's. We're ahead. I like doing minimal things when you're ahead. It's tough. You can always try to press the advantage, but I'm gonna go with just casting Visions here. Enough Thought Scours, put that on the bottom. I'm gonna keep the Delver though. Delver lets us keep a threat without having too much mana. Getting ahead like this is important. I think our Thought Scour targeting himself. Alright, themselves. Alright. So you see Grixis control, it looks like. They haven't drawn a Fatal Push yet. This is good. A shock. What do we got here? Engineered Explosives for 1. I think I'm going to Mana Leak this, just because Mana Leak just depreciates in value pretty drastically as the game goes on, and if they had one more land, I wouldn't be able to do it anyway. Also, I like the tapping mana. Just let it happen. That's fine. All right. Also fine. Another hit. Things are looking good for us Delver warriors at the moment. I think our opponent would have used Spell Snare if they had it there. So at the risk of getting Spell Snare, I think it's fine opportunity to play this now. Uh-oh. Control. Oh, we did it wrong. Control Z. Undo. Undo. There you go. I thought I was in second main already. That was awkward. That's so funny. All right, whatever. Here we go. Young Pyromancer is getting Spell Snared. Yeah, so I guess it's just wrong. All right, well, we're going to play Delver then. Hopefully they don't have another Engineered Explosives. That would be awkward. Can use Thought Scour to control the Delver trigger a little bit. It's possible they have main deck Anger or something like that, but I really want to push the advantage because we don't have much in our hand, and they have 6 cards in hand. So you want to be aggressive here. Kind of, if they don't have Delver themselves, you kind of are penciled into being aggressive because they have a bunch of Cryptics and stuff anyway. So I like just being aggressive here, hoping they don't have it. Seems like it's working out pretty well. And stop on our upkeep. Do I want to reveal this card? No, obviously. Do I want to Thought Scour myself before I draw it? I don't think so. I'm okay with drawing another Delver. Seems like they're pretty good right now. I'm going to go to combat and attack for 4. Could get Snapcaster Mage here, but we have Lightning Bolt to stop. Yeah, Snapcaster Mage. Targeting Thought Scour. I'm going to bolt the Snapcaster Mage before it can block. Get our damage in there. And then opponent goes to 6. They're going to catch the Thought Scour. I don't think it really matters much because they have Gut Shot maybe, but they probably don't. Yep, so we go. Opponent's down to 6. Gonna cast a Thought Scour main phase because we have one to flip our Delvers anyway. Might draw a Tasigur. Did not draw a Tasigur. Gonna play a Delver because they haven't been able to Stop that previously. And then, yep, play it over. And we're looking good for the good guys right now, but again, if you can't win the late game with a bunch of Culligan's commands and Snapcaster mages, you kind of want to kill them with cards in their hand because they have such a better late game than you do. Fourth land, that means Cryptic Command's alive now. It's also possible they have Damnation. Glad that they don't, though. That would have been bad. What do we got here? Snapcaster Mage. For Terminate, maybe? For Lightning Bolt? Yeah, Snapcaster Mage, Lightning Bolt. Sure. Not a problem. We're still comfortably far ahead. Serum Visions. Alright, so we can win the game if our Delvers flip. And we're going to push that Snapcaster out of the way anyway. Alright, so we flipped our Delvers, so our opponent is dead. Yep, great. Alright. Grixis control. Presumably no Delvers in their deck. I want the Painful Truths. I want Dispel for sure. Really great to get their 4-mana Cryptic Commands with a 1-mana spell. I absolutely want the Lighthouse. I want Pia. I kind of like the Thoughtseize because they're Snapcasters and Cryptics. I don't want any copies of Delver of Secrets, even though it was good that game. I'd rather fight the control game, Young Pyromancer, or Delve Creatures. I don't want the second Brutality. I'm going to keep one, but its weakness to Spell Snare and 2-for-1s makes me not want more than one. I'm also going to cut my Fatal Pushes because most of the mirrors come down to Tasker, and Grixis Control doesn't have any creatures you can Fatal Push except for maybe Vendilion Click or Young Pyromancer. But Spell Snare, between Spell Snare, Bolt, and we're keeping the Dismember, the Cut, and the Terminate to deal with the Delve creatures, we'll be able to beat their creatures pretty easily. So yeah, -4 Delvers, -2 pushes, plus Pia, plus Thoughtseize, plus Lighthouse, plus 2 Dispels, plus Painful Truth. So 6 out and 6 in. We are ready to rock for game 2. The Lighthouse is super, super important. Alright, and our hand is not keepable, unfortunately. If you draw a blue source off the top, it's just a fantastic hand with likely a turn 2 Tasker, but cannot risk it. This hand is totally fine. Got an answer to an early threat and Spell Snare, which is great. Keep on top, sure. Be interesting if they had Delver and just didn't draw it game 1. Probably Serum Visions. Ancestral Vision. Oh, okay. Yep, so definitely like the Corey Burkhart type deck. Grixis Control. Alright, I think the call is to leave up Spell Snare and do nothing. Watery Grave end step. Ancestral Vision is going to be unfortunate. It's entirely possible we lose that fight. Another Ancestral Vision. Uh-oh. This is not great. Yeah, Watery Grave. Not like to pay 2 life. With the Ancestral Visions, it's possible that I'm going to go ahead and board back in my Delvers just to make sure that I want both of these cards also. On top. On top. I'm going to shock and pay 2 life. Yes. I'd ideally like to wait till I get 4 lands. My opponent had a second Ancestral Vision, but no second land? This is interesting. This is certainly one of the better ways for the game to go, provided that they do have double Ancestral Vision. Probably have Spell Snare. Gonna go with forcing the Pyromancer into play. while we can make sure it resolves. And I think I'm going to leave open Dispel. Hopefully they don't have two answers now that it's in play. Might be able to just kill them before their Ancestral Visions do anything. It's possible they have a Sorcery Speed answer, but... Oh, this is great. Dispel your expensive fancy Lightning Bolt. Go, Daddy, go. It's unfortunate that no matter how expensive and fancy your Lightning Bolt is, it still gets dispelled. Yep. It's likely to have another answer, though, because it's kind of rough keeping this hand with not at least two answers. Just can't... Oh, they got their second land, so Terminate, probably. Fatal Push. Terminate, sure. Whatever. Not great, but we're going to get to play Tasigur with Dispel up next turn. That will be attacking for 1. I think their Ancestral Visions is coming off this turn, or at least the first one is. Delver yard away. We have second copies of some of those cards in our hand, and the ones that don't, obviously, good cards, but it's much more important to get the Tasigur out when they can't answer it. And if they used their Terminate to use their mana better, I think that they're going to get... If they kept Fatal Push in hand, they punish themselves. They're casting Ancestral Vision right now. Yep. Not a big deal. We've got the board presence, which is super important. And we've got... I think casting Dispel is better than casting Terminate here, but it's close. The argument is between Dispel answers Murderous Cut and Dismember down the road, and Colligan's Command, I guess, way down the road, whereas Spell Snare answers Snapcaster Mage down the road. I think it's much more likely that they have Snapcaster Mage, so I'm going to keep Spell Snare and cast Dispel. Though, it's a pretty close call. And I guess I don't 100% fault people for going the other way if they did. I'm going to cast Visions now, try to get another land, and Mana Leak is pretty good. I will keep. Those are on top. It's kind of interesting that I don't have any lands and I'm not actively seeking for lands, but I have definitely the advantage in play and some reach in the form of Bolt. Young Pyromancer is a great threat. So, stuck on land still, hopefully. Do I want to Mana Leak this Ancestral Vision? Maybe? I'd rather just Mana Leak the removal spell. Whatever. Just let them draw all the cards they can. It's fine. Just going to kill them with cards in their hand this game. That's the plan. Shock. Okay. Terminate plus Dispel or Terminate plus Spell Snare. Another Terminate. Okay, so if they have Spell Snare, then I should cast Spell Snare. Because if they have... They're likely to have Spell Snare in hand. Much more likely than they are to have Dispel. So I should cast Spell Snare over Mana Leak. Because we only really need this attack to win the game. I'm going to cast Spell Snare on their Terminate. If they have Dispel, whatever. They'll be tapped out, and I'll get to cast Young Pyromancer. If they do have Dispel, that's unfortunate. Very unfortunate. They still have to discard, which is great. Alright. I'm going to attack. And probably that's it. We've fallen behind a little bit, but we have reach here. Next turn I can play Young Pyromancer with Thought Scour up. Also, I could just Thought Scour away the Young Pyromancer and try to hit a land. No, I think I'm just going to... They need to play creatures or removal spells at some point to be able to stop me, so... I'm just going to keep my mana untapped. Got a lot of reactive spells. I don't want them to be dead. Casting something. What is that? What you got for me? The sheer density of like powerful mid to late game spells in the Grixis control decks makes me want to push the envelope whenever I have an advantage here, because I'm never really winning the long game. I'm only gonna win the mid to short game by casting spells more efficiently than they do. So yeah, so that's why I'm playing it the way I am. We're definitely struggling a little bit, but that's all right. Fortunately here, if they had Snapcaster Mage, we could... Do I want to play Young Pyromancer here? This is a close call. Could play Young Pyromancer into a pretty obvious Spell Snare, but that means they can't also play Snapcaster Mage this turn. It's a pretty close call. I'm going to look at both graveyards real quick. I think I'm going to go with... I also could Snapcaster Bolt if I have Young Pyromancer. I'm going to go with... I'm just going to go with the Thought Scour myself and see what we get. First, likely not play Young Pyromancer. Yeah, we got a land. Okay. Play land, and then all done. Still can leave up Terminate here, although I can't leave up two things. That is a juicy target for Mana Leak before it's utterly useless. Love to Mana Leak that. Hopefully they tap out, do something, and we can sneak our copy of the Young Pyromancer back into play. Close. This game is leaning towards the unfortunate side, unfortunately, but still, I think, in good shape, or decent shape at least. Oh, that's not good. Yeah, that's bad. Uh-oh. Yep. So they didn't even use the life gain mode. Interesting. Wonder if they have no good answer for Tassiger. All right, let's cast this Colleen's command now. I like that. Would be 2 damage to them and play and get back Tassiger. Yeah. Of course, possible they have something, but I don't think they do. Yep. And then I think play this. Remove a Spell Snare, Thought Scour. No, I want to keep Visions. Whatever. Another Spell Snare, and Mana Leak. There you go. Alright, Tassiger lives. That's good. Their next turn could just be Snapcaster Terminate, which is not great for us, but then we get to play our Young Pyromancer. Hopefully draw a cantrip. Yep, their turn is Snapcaster Terminate. Not great. Oh well. There's lots of Lightning Bolts left in our deck though, so... Yep. Snapcaster Terminator Tassiger. Unfortunate. Try to burn them out from here. Play at 17. Let's go get a blue land. I like blue lands. Probably get Steam Vents. Yep. I do want to pay 2 life. Red and colorless. Young Pyromancer. And doesn't matter so much if the Snapcaster Mage lives or not. It more matters that we get to cast the Terminate if we have to. We're way down on cards here. Not the greatest spot to be in. Probably going to just take 2 in case they have a post-combat Tasigur. What is that? Huh, lots of mana. Damnation. Okay, I guess we'll just keep our Terminate. That's fine. Weird. Actually, I'm going to tap that for red, that for blue, and that for colorless, and activate. Oh no! That's unfortunate. We definitely drew the wrong... Oh, maybe we tapped wrong? I don't know. I wanted to leave a red mana because I drew Bolt. Oh well. That's awkward. Didn't foresee that happening. Huh. This game got really interesting. We were way ahead early, but we kind of ran out of gas. They have probably just a bunch of removal spells in their hand. Not too worried. Gonna cast Tasigur. Delving away Tasigur. Pyro. 2 lands, and let's hit the Spell Snare. I want to leave all the burn spells and the Dispel. Cryptic Command here, unfortunate. Let's cast Thought Scour in response. Maybe we can hit Dispel or Snapcaster for Dispel. Target ourselves. Not hit any such thing, unfortunately. Yeah, that's fine. It's not great for us. Got another land though, at least. Plan right now is to just draw 2 Lightning Bolts or a Snapcaster plus Lightning Bolt before we die. Not a great plan. We also can draw Colligan's Command because I targeted the my opponent with the first Colligan's Command to make sure they were at 5, so Snapcaster Colligan's Command would be good. There's Snapcaster Mage, that's good. Alright, definitely pass the turn here. Maybe we can get them to tap out. They probably won't, though. Kind of a tough spot here. But we have Lighthouse, so we can make sure to get good use out of our mana regardless. Gonna wake up the Creeping Tar Pit. I like that. Anytime that's happening, it's generally good. I have a Tasigur, sure. So like the in this mirror match, Grixis has very good answers to the creatures from both sides of the matchup, but they don't have very good answers to the burn spells. Do I want to fight over this? I don't think so. I'm not going to fight over this. Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to loot either. I have nothing to discard. Hopefully they activate Tasigur end of turn, and I can bolt them. I'll let that Tasigur hit happen. Not too worried just yet. Alright, interesting. Alright, past turn. We might be able to get them now. I don't have enough mana to do all of it, but I probably have a handful of counter spells. I'm gonna cast this Dismember, paying nothing. Target that. Snapcaster Mage. Sure. Snapcaster Mage targeting Dispel. Cast Dispel targeting. Alright, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to take that. I hope they don't have double lightning bolts from the last 3. And then I'm going to go for the kill and a turn, I guess. I have a tough spot to be in. Blue, blue. Oh, they got a Spell Snare, also good. Right. We've played to the ability to draw Lightning Bolt here. That's interesting. Huh. I don't know what to do now. Alright, let's blue, black, and try to draw 2 lightning bolts, or a lightning bolt in a land. I'll just colorless here. I don't want to be at 1 so I can crack a fetch land if I have to. Yep, we are dead. We get Snapcaster Dispel. I guess we're technically not dead. No, they have Creeping Target. We're dead. Alright, dead. Concede game. Alright, we have 6 minutes left. That's not great. Alright, I want all the Delvers back in. Kill them before their Ancestral Visions come off. I want to cut Mana Leak because it gets so much worse as the game goes on. Terminate because it's bad against Spell Snare. I gotta cut 2 more cards. Would be Electrolyze against bad against all their Dispels. Maybe the Thoughtseize? Nah. Not a Mana Leak. Doesn't really stop anything, unfortunately. Alright. It's dead cards. You're forced to cast Mana Leak at like an awkward time. It's like the only time it's not terrible. And I'll keep. Fetch Shock, get Steam Vents. Cast Serum Visions. Let's just get Watergrave, actually. It's a little bit safer. So I know we're going to want to cast Tassiger, so if we find Thought Scour, we can cast Tassiger. I think I want Cut on the bottom and Truths on top. Yeah, I like that. Alright. Got no Ancestral Vision here, that's nice. Watergrave tapped, yep. shock. Okay. Let's not shock here. Let's just get steam events. Late shocking to leave up terminate. Fair enough. Let's could go for Snapcaster. I'm gonna go for just casting. Yeah, just casting Painful Truth seems fine. Yeah, they'd have to have Mana Leak, which I think they take out, or Counter Squall. Might have to discard one card, but we're gonna have some excess fetch lands anyway. Yeah, I'll be discarding fetch land. Way ahead on cards, good for us. Don't want to pay life on that. No. Cast Tassiger here. Delving the yard away. Yep, don't want that Painful Truths back. We got all 5 of them away, and we get Tassiger. And there we go. And then I'm also going to gem the Delver down here. Make them have Damnation, which I think they only have 1 of. Yeah, let's gem Delver down here too. Our time clock is running low, so that's part of why I am playing a little bit more aggressively here. But I do like to make them have a certain thing at a certain time, because they definitely have more cryptic commands and much better late game than you do. So I like putting them under the gun here. I'm going to fire off one of these lightning bolts just to spend my mana end of turn. I would get Damnation and Weep openly. One time no. Colligan's command. Sure. Discard a card. I will discard one of these lightning bolts. Whatever. And then... But that's all they got though. That's not that good. I'm going to fire off this lightning bolt at them. Try to just attack, be aggressive, yep. Yep. Attack. Let's scour ourselves, see what we can do here. Like to hit a land drop. Oh, it's great. Perfect. And there you go. Spread out the graveyard so we can see it a little bit. And that's that. Alright. They do nothing here. Let's see. They had the Damnation, but they waited a turn? Interesting. Okay. Could activate Tassiger, did not. Can we beat the spell snare here? This is a tough call now. I think I'm going to cast Colligan's command to draw out. Yep, to draw out a counter spell. There we go. That's the right one. There we go. Would be 2 damage to you and return Tassiger. Yep. And that's the target. Dispel. Good. All right. Oh, that's a good one. I guess we play that one? It's kind of close. Yeah, we'll play that one. Red. We're running low on time. Also, like, maybe casting Snapcaster for Colligan's command. Yeah, I actually like that better. Colorless, blue, and black. Okay, so let's do that. Snapcaster. That. Casting Colligan's Command. Cast Colligan's Command. Oh yeah, let me resolve my trigger. Oops. Turn target creature card. Yep, I did 2 damage. Gonna get my Tasigur back again and target them. Six is a good life total to put them at. Dead to the 2 lightning bolts in our graveyard. And it'll make the Snapcaster hit relevant enough that they have to start doing something about it. Oh, they're going to fire right back with Colligan's Command. Huh. I think the right discard is Tasigur, unfortunately. Pia is much harder to beat than Tasigur. Oh, they have their own Tasigur, okay. Thought Scour myself in case I draw a Lightning Bolt. Kill them. I drew Colligan's Command. Another good one. Alright, cast Pia this time for sure. And hope it gets in any damage and we'll be able to finish the game out. If they Lightning Bolt targeting, they don't have to do that. I think if they attack with Tasigur, I'll likely block with a Thopter token. Force them to do another Colligan's Command. This is a really close game. Hope I don't. Oh, explosives for 0. It's fine. It's not great, but fine. The tokens go away. They attack. I would definitely. Not gonna attack. Okay. All right. I like passing the turn, hoping, and then end a turn, going for the Snapcaster Mage, and then going for another Snapcaster Mage on the next turn. This is a very, very close game, and with more time, I might have played it differently, but unfortunately, I don't have such time. Gotta hope they don't have the multiple spell snares. But the thing is, if they counter this, I can still cast Colligan's Command in a turn. Yeah, that's good. So I'm going to cast Colligan's Command for 2 damage and get back Snapcaster. Black and red and colorless. Oh no, timed out. Boo. Thank you for watching part 2 of Constructed Accumulated Knowledge. In part 2, we incorporated Aether Revolt and Fatal Push into my modern Grixis Delver deck. And we played some games to see how that worked out. So be sure to stay tuned for part 3, when I'll update the list as I see fit, and we can get some more games out ahead of GP Vancouver and the SCG Modern Team Open in Baltimore.